I get too much news.
All right.
Okay.
I'd like to thank
There
everybody.
he is.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming and call the meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Molly, if you'd be so
You did it
kind
last night.
to help us with the roll call.
All right. Mayor Atwell,
Present.
Commissioner Eicher,
Here.
Cahalan,
Here.
Jashinsky,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Weiler,
Here.
and then Commissioner Merrick and Greenway are excused.
Thank you very much. If there's no corrections to the minutes, is there a minute, somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, public hearing. A public hearing number 1, the Boathouse of Lake Country LLC. Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 1? Anyone like to speak to public hearing number 1? Not the applicant. All right. Public hearing number 1 is now closed. Okay, we'll move on to citizens' comments for items on the consent agenda. Seeing no comments, consent agenda item, citizen comments are closed. We'll move on to number 7, the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes. Citizens' comments on the items on the consent agenda. We got this? Citizen comments on items other than the consent agenda, items at public hearing. Seeing none, those citizens' comments are now closed. Okay, we'll move on to number 9, unfinished business. Number A, DLC 0742986 W73E, Wisconsin Avenue, owner of the Boathouse of Lake Country LLC. DLC 0742014 W127E, Wisconsin Avenue, owner John Queta Dodge LLC, applicant Rick Gasway, Boathouse of Lake Country Real Estate LLC. Applicant is requesting approval for an amended conditional use site plan to follow modifications to the existing boat repair and sales using the expansion of the physical boundaries of the use. Conditional use permit for John Queta Dodge will be terminated as part of the process. Now we'd like to have the applicant come up, and you were approved on the consent agenda.
Told you so.
It's still nice that they show up.
Oh, yeah. All right, Amy, want to give us a rundown?
Sure, so we discussed this item at last month's meeting. I believe you're all aware of where the property is located. At last month's meeting, you did schedule the public hearing, which we just had, subject to several items being addressed. All of the items were addressed, except I will say they do state in their report that they're not making any changes to the buildings, and we did ask for a description of any changes, including colors, and I just want to, we can talk about that when we get into it, but I just want to make sure that you truly aren't making changes, and if you are, to just address that tonight. And then we did need an interior floor plan for each building, and I think I still only have an interior floor plan for the western site. Did you send?
Yeah, you should have.
Okay. Maybe it is in here, and I thought it was for just one of them, but in the conditions, you'll see the reason why I really wanted that is to make sure they have enough parking, so I think that's something that I can do outside of the meeting setting. So in more detail from last month regarding the proposed uses, they are going to propose about enough outdoor display in front of the building to accommodate approximately 40 boats along Wisconsin Avenue. So you can see that on their site plan is in the blue hatched mark on the screen. And then there'll be an additional 10 boats displayed in the northeast corner of the, western property, which is in the gray hatch where I have my cursor and it says used boat display. A showroom will be provided in both buildings, and then the fenced-in area on the northeast corner of the existing property will continue to be used for temporary storage of boats as it is today and related equipment as they wait to be serviced. And then the existing facility, the east property, will mostly be used for sales, and the west property will mostly be used for service, repair, and display. But as their business grows, they may combine those uses on both properties. And again, they said they are not proposing any modifications to the building on the site. There will now be 32 parking stalls, which includes customer and employee parking, and then 20 additional stalls for boat drop-off. They are stating there will be no parking on Wisconsin Avenue or Woodfield Court, and then this existing entrance on Woodfield Court will only be used for employees, and everybody will be directed off of Wisconsin Avenue. And then they do say that they're going to ask for a permit to regrade the access off of Wisconsin Avenue. I'm not sure which entrance that was. Is it the one on the far west or one of the?
Far west, correct.
Okay, so on the car dealership property?
Correct, yep.
So they are proposing to regrade that entrance. And then they are showing here how they're going to direct flow of traffic, and maybe they can just explain that a little bit
Sure.
further. I
Yep.
think, oh, go ahead.
Did you want me to do that now?
Sure.
Okay, so employees coming entrance from Woodfield Court only, that's our yard, so with no customers allowed back there. Currently, we would maintain that signage and reinforce the gates there. And then from an in and out, you've got customer and employee entry around the far eastern side, and then also the western side entry and exit. Most customers are going to be bringing their boats in on the far western side. That's the request for the regrading, because currently trailers and skegs and can get damaged depending on the type of boat that's going in and out of that parking lot currently.
So you're leveling it?
Yep.
I think we need your mic on top.
Just
Or
talk closer.
Just closer.
Okay.
Better?
Yes.
All right.
Dan, does something like that need to go to Public Works? Or,
I don't think so.
okay.
No.
No changes are proposed to lighting, no changes to the dumpster location. I don't recall, are the dumpsters enclosed at all?
Yeah, that's
I don't-
They're not.
They're not?
No.
They need to be.
Okay.
Just the ones over there, because they're in the public view. The ones you have on the other side, that's all private. Customers aren't allowed back there. I don't think, I'm assuming we don't have an issue with that, but when they are in the public and can be seen, then like, ask them to be enclosed.
Good deal.
They're not proposing any changes to the landscape plan. In signage, they will propose new signage, but we'll submit that at a future date as part of another application. And then as a separate motion, they did submit a business plan of operation as well. Well, I'm proposing 20 to 25 full-time employees and then additional seasonal employees. Hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and after hours by appointment on Monday through Friday, and then 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays. Hours of deliveries, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then the hours of garbage pickup would be dependent on the service that's provided. They are proposing up to 4 special events per year. That would include boat sales, outdoor tent, food, beer, wine, potentially live music, DJ, all subject to city permitting requirements for a special exception or special event.
So on that, you've got your hours of operations ending at 5 p.m. On these special event days, are you going to need to go longer, potentially?
We were hoping to capture that by appointment only. And if we
Yeah,
need
I
to be
mean-
more specific than that, then we can.
I guess I thought that could be included as part of the event permit. I don't know if that's how you typically, it's just, it would be part of the 4 events.
We can get into issues if we don't have a broader range of hours of operation that you can get the permits for. We're not going to give you a permit for something that you didn't ask for the hours of operation. So bottom line is, give yourself a window for those special events. So instead of saying 5, say whatever you want, 8, 9.
I mean, that jumped out at me too, Mayor, is that,
Yeah.
just from the standpoint of, you're not saying that you have to be open during the hours you're applying for. I mean, I'd suggest, is this part of the conditional use? Is that the hours of operation, or it's a business plan?
No, business plan of operation I have as a separate motion.
Okay, I mean, I'd suggest that be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday through Friday, and,
Sure.
and, 10 to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
And I think that's not outside of what your neighbor had been doing.
Yep.
Probably, except for the Sunday part. I mean, but just so that people know that you're not asking for anything different for just doing something reasonable.
Yep. Makes sense.
I mean, I don't, unless someone else has an issue with that, I think that makes sense. We've done that before, where people have the best of intentions of promising or just intending to do something, and they're like, well, let's stay open an hour later because people want it, and then you realize you're in violation of something that everyone else.
So I did drive out to the property, and I just want to note, I mean, there was parking on Wisconsin Avenue and Woodfield. So I think, making sure that is enforced by you as the applicants, and also having appropriate signage, which if that signage ends up being in the right-of-way, needs special approval by the city, would be important. And then,
Would that include parking for a special event then? So you could park along?
It's all
Wisconsin?
posted, no parking.
Okay.
Today it is.
Yeah, and it has been for quite some time,
Okay,
but
they parked.
it doesn't get enforced.
See it.
Yeah.
and then I do think it would be beneficial, this picture is really hard to see, but they do have like a chain link, they have a wood fence in the back of the property, which is pretty well screened. This is a chain link fence where the storage is between the storage area and Woodfield. And it's got deciduous vegetation, so in the winter, I mean, I know you don't have a lot of stuff in the winter, but it still would be exposed. And it was exposed, part of it was exposed when I drove by. So it seems like it would be a simple fix to put that, I don't know, there's like green and black or different, I think green would probably fit in the best, like mesh fence covering that you could put on the inside of the fence, kind of like tennis courts or
Most
whatever,
definitely. Looking to reinforce it maybe a little bit more than that. Once we really took a good look around there, we have some areas that can improve on the fencing. So looking to go different material or even higher to make sure that we're preventing vandalism. So I'm working on quotes shortly for that.
And the
Okay.
vandalism, and that so passersby don't
Exactly.
see your storage stuff in the back,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And then here's the car dealership property and the pictures. And the parking lot, which they have agreed, is going to be resealed and repaved, which would be good because it's getting a little shot out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there really isn't any kind of landscaping between the road and the parking. I'm assuming they want to keep that pretty low considering they've got the display of vehicles. But as part of my recommendation, I recommend approval to Common Council subject to a CU agreement being drafted by the planner and attorney that incorporates several conditions and any other additions determined by the Plan Commission. The conditions I have in here are that the conditional use permit for John Quaden Dodge terminates upon the recording of the CU agreement for Boathouse of Lake Country. That can be built into this because the tax key will be part of, it'll just say the CU agreement's null and void. The conditional use agreement shall be drafted by the city planner and attorney and be recorded with Waukesha County Register of Deeds prior to commencing operation on the western property. The access, parking, and circulation shall be reviewed and approved by the fire department prior to the CU being effective. No modification to signage is permitted without getting a permanent sign permit from the city. No parking is permitted within the road right-of-way of any public road. An interior floor plan of the building on the eastern site shall be submitted to the planner to ensure parking requirements are met. We can go through here and make sure I have what I need and we can take care of that. And then I do have, and maybe this already exists, directional signage shall be installed that directs the flow of traffic and prohibits parking within the public road right-of-way. Such signage shall be reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission prior to commencing the expanded operation. If you want, like, Public Works or me to review that directional signage, that's fine, but I think they've got a very specific flowage pattern And in order for that to actually function, you've got to put some directional signage out there to direct people. Then the parking lot shall be resealed and restriped prior to commencing operation of the expanded site unless the deadline is extended by the city planner. I don't know what your plans are there. I mean, if you're going to expand on the other site during winter and you can't reseal it, then I would be willing to extend that until next year when it's practical. Then a community, and this is per the ordinance, a community special event permit application shall be submitted 60 days prior to any special event taking place on the property, and a permit shall be issued prior to any event taking place. And then any modifications to the site or buildings not specifically mentioned in the application materials shall be submitted to the Plan Commission for review and approval as part of a site plan and appearance review. If the modifications are minor in nature as determined by the Plan Commission, a CU amendment will not be required. I don't think this is something you probably do often, but, and if the modifications are considered significant by the Plan Commission, a CU and all procedures shall be followed. If they might change like parking or they do change the paint colors or whatever, it seems like it would be extensive to have them go through the hearing process.
Can we go back to the traffic flow question and being one of your customers, walk me through what I would do with my boat?
With your boat? Yep, perfect. So you have an opportunity to, you're coming in on Wisconsin Avenue on the far west side.
Yeah,
And you have an opportunity to drop your boat off right there in the first yellow area because it's going to be pull through easy into the service.
okay,
Or you can come along to that top area and store it along those areas, unhook, and then you can take any of the parking spots there in green. You could pull right around to the grassy knoll, you can pull to the side, and then you would enter into the service area, the service showroom, through the front door.
okay. Am I gonna have to back my trailer into the boat and trailer?
You would
into
have to back up into that area, yes.
Okay, so I'd be
Yeah.
pulling through and then I would back up the trailer into the stall, unhook and leave.
Or you could call us in advance and then you can just pull in straight if you don't feel like you want to back up, and then we'll unhook you from there, hook it up to a tractor and store it in one of those areas.
Okay.
Does that even function properly though? You're just your parking stalls aren't angled, they're straight.
Yep.
Is there enough room to do that?
It looks wide enough, depends on the boat,
Yeah.
right? It's not a pontoon boat, but maybe.
I think that looks doable. There's a lot of tough boat landings.
It's
Yeah,
really
that's-
doable if
yeah.
you get to just knock on the window and say, take your trailer
And
out
that's
here
it,
and
and
help
we
me
don't
out.
want to make it complicated, so we'll be able to easily have you guys just pull off to the side straight, so you don't have to do any turning or anything like that. We've got tractors that are fully capable of maneuvering those in tight spots.
Good. That's nice.
Then the only other comment I was gonna make, and the fire chief will decide, but some of those turns look a little tight based on parking, and I don't know, he needs to be able to get his truck, that's his thing, but I don't know if he has enough room to get his truck through there or not, so.
Sure. Based off the footprint and just seeing it, and it's pretty empty right now, I think there's gonna be plenty of
Okay.
space.
That's on your list that he needs to review.
Yeah, and I would say like if he reviews it and he requires a significant change, we'd have to bring it back here. But
Sure.
I would assume any changes would be
I
pretty
wouldn't think
minor,
so.
if any. I
And-
just, I would just make sure you email your customers or whatever what the pattern requirements are, because they might just instinctively come in on this.
Oh, they are, they're gonna
Yep.
instinctively
It's gonna
do
be-
what they've
it's gonna
done
be
in the
new for them
past.
all. So we'll have either business cards we've talked about doing to help coach them through it, some flyers, emails. We're great in our marketing communication, how we'll touch our customers there.
This map that you have in the packet is a great resource for your customers.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a well done, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the requirements for parking? What's it based on?
They have parking, so many parking stalls per the actual like showroom versus warehouse versus office space. And so I have to kind of look at it. I think it's a unique site in that they're going to have huge spaces for like repair and storage that, even retail showroom isn't really, you're not going to have a ton of customers in there at once. So, I mean, I will look at it.
I mean, I would say that based on just being in boat, and I don't own one, love to, but I've been fortunate enough to know people with boats. It's way easier for me.
It's way
But
easier.
just understanding that the site could be, in the future, maybe leveraged differently and maybe not have so much of, that they could designate an area for maybe some of the boat storage or display as banked parking for future needs if they switch their mode of operation in some way.
And I think that would
know
be
what I
like a
mean?
very natural transition anyway, because it's going to be part of like the paved space, and it's parking now.
Yep.
So I think that is what would happen if they didn't display, and then you have got a ton of extra parking.
Yeah.
Yep.
But just, I mean, to meet the code, instead of getting rid of grass,
Yeah.
to say that
That's what,
if the
Yeah.
retail floor space, based on our code, mandates a certain amount of
Okay.
parking space, I'd be all in favor of approving it contingent upon them displacing boats if they needed parking for events and the other things.
sure.
You said, working on a ratio between depending on the code, between the display and the parking space.
Just designating a parking area that could be used if the demand existed.
Sure.
So
That
they-
typically is what we've done.
They have the opportunity to bank parking stalls, provided you allocate the space. Like,
Okay.
if you don't need the number that's required, they can bank it, but you have to have the space. Any other questions from me, of me? I guess with the conditions, I would add that the dumpsters that are visible have to be enclosed.
So that
Prior
they
to
can
operating.
stay where they are, they just
Yeah.
need to be enclosed.
So, and the thing would be really screening their appearance from the public view from the street. It's not like putting caps on them, right? I mean,
No, it's just a
a screen,
wall, and
screen
usually
from
people put a
Highway
metal
16.
gate with wheels on it and they close it, right? And then the surrounding is opaque.
Makes sense.
And the opaque fence. Do you have that in your list?
No, I didn't. I saw that when I was in the field.
That's for the boat staging area, is it?
And,
Just opaque fencing, like she was showing the pictures, and when the buckthorn all dies, you'd be able to see through. And they seem to like the idea for security, but also just for screening to make sure the fencing's opaque.
That was the customer boat staging, is that?
yep,
what
it's
that's
all on
called?
Woodfield.
Yeah.
There's a chain link fence that's intended to, secure the area from the road, but you can see it. I mean, I could see it when I drove through, and it's not very attractive. So, and install opaque fencing along Woodfield Road.
Opaque fencing or just, I have additional screening or opaque fencing, are we specifying that it must be opaque?
I mean, I guess you could put arborvitae there, whatever. The fencing would just be,
Or is the mesh used?
mesh is fine.
Is the mesh considered?
Well, I guess it's up to the planning commission.
Want to make sure I'm capturing.
Yeah. I'm looking up the exact definition of opaque, not able to see through it. I think mesh meets the definition of opaque.
And then the hours of operation that's something that's submitted on a separate business plan.
Yeah,
Or-
it's a next motion, so I think
Oh,
you can
okay.
address that in the next motion. So
Right.
this would be for the conditional use and site plan approval.
Amy, can you, just confirm with me any, items that are not specific to planners report?
Okay, so everything on the planner's report, if they choose to address that. And then also dumpsters shall be enclosed from the street. Do you guys want me to review their enclosure? No? Can you do that before you operate on that property? Without having deadlines, it's hard to, Or is there a date?
So before close or before operate, because there's gonna be a gap before we're actually in there operating. If operating, we're several months out probably.
Oh, I think before operating, don't
That's
you?
what I'm thinking, for operating.
Okay.
Before, prior to
If it closed,
operating. And then the other one, let me know when you're ready, Molly. And then install an opaque fencing along Woodfield Road
So, okay,
where,
I'm going to the open screening or
I would say install or add opaque fencing along Woodfield Road. I mean, would you vegetatively screen? It's kind of already vegetated. You'd have to cut stuff down in order to do that, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking to reevaluate the entire fencing back there, and then even along the whole back area of the new site, where there's the wood fencing. I'd like to secure all of that a little bit more.
So what do you have, Molly?
right now I have, adding opaque fencing, fence on Woodfield.
And then before you.
on? Turn on.
I thought he was, I thought I was the one.
It's me.
Before you modify the fencing, I would talk to me and make sure Scott doesn't need to review.
Sure.
Something, because there are setbacks and height requirements, et cetera, but.
Okay, and then, while you were kind of going through the items on the planner's report, you did have some suggestions as to who should or shouldn't do the approval. Were those all included?
They're all in here.
Specific? To who? Okay.
Yep, that's in here. And then, so the attorney and I have to write a conditional use agreement that will go to common council, and we'll make sure the language is, I mean, it's not uncommon for him for
So
us
the-
to tweak a word or two.
The only other question I have is you got into minor, major, or significant
Yes,
changes.
yes, I did.
Those are no good.
I know you guys don't like.
No, we
I
don't.
know, I'm like, you guys are gonna like that.
So what issue is at hand there? What are we talking about specifically? Are we talking about the appearance of the buildings or colors, or what's really in play
So,
with that decision that, because I want them to move on with business, but what are we worried about?
personally, I think it's kind of hard to be extremely specific because we don't know what they're proposing, but I just feel like if it's a site plan issue where it's modifying the parking or the fencing that he may need to get approval from Scott from, or if they do decide to match the cut, because the two buildings don't match, it seems to me like you would want to have some continuity in your.
How about because I think
Voting.
the screening and the fencing are well, we're talking about what the objective is, and that's pretty well defined.
Yeah.
How about if we just say that if the site or appearance of the buildings falls outside of the existing color palette and designs of what's there? Does that make sense? Meaning, because I mean, if you want to match, you've got blue, I think, on the boathouse. I forget.
Red.
There's blue trim on the boathouse.
Quaden is red.
And then red, yeah.
So I mean, if you decide that you're gonna, I mean, if you want blaze orange, that's gonna be a problem. Probably, maybe not, but
But remember, they are coming to site plan no matter what, for site plan approval.
Oh, well then-
But would you want them to go through a hearing? I
No.
just, when it's minor and it's not a use change, I feel like it's asking a lot to have people come through a hearing when they're not changing the use.
when people change the color of their building, they have to come here. I mean, when they're approved, right, for their
Yeah.
site plan, they come here for,
Plan of op.
yeah.
But this isn't saying they don't have to come here, is my point.
Oh, okay.
It's saying that you have to come to the plan commission. If it's minor, you don't need a conditional use amendment. You need a site plan.
Oh, when they come here, then it's for, okay, well.
We're
then-
very sensitive to the major and
Then
minor
we're
words.
good with it,
I
because
am.
we are sensitive to it, so that, okay, as long as that's what I was worried about. So if it comes here. and it's-
Coming here.
Okay.
You change the color. So do
So what I
you
said
want to
about
talk
colors-
about it at all tonight? I mean, are you not planning?
Not real near term. The resealing and the regrading and a couple of the other investments the overall organization is making, this is gonna be it for the near term. So I wouldn't be able to put pen to paper and show you guys pictures or what it could be, because it could be different in
Okay.
6 months.
Let's understand, if you
understand.
leave it as is, you appear to be good. But if you do make changes, you gotta let
We're
us know.
coming back.
And if it, the way it's written in here, if it's orange and you want a public hearing so the neighbors can comment, then you have the right to require a public hearing.
Then
just
that's
so you
all
know.
good.
Okay, good.
I think we're ready, right? So I'll make a motion to approve, and what are we approving, the conditional use?
And site plan.
And site plan contingent upon meeting the contingencies in the planner's letter and recommendation that's in the packet, along with making sure that the dumpsters are screened from the city view, from city street view, and that opaque screen fencing and/or landscaping to block the boat staging area and that on Woodfield Road is in place before beginning of operations.
Nicely said. Does somebody want to second that?
I'll second.
Bob seconds it. All right.
Yes.
The fencing is, well, it's going to be in both sites, I guess. So you're going to be operating your existing site the entire time, correct?
Correct.
So the 7-month period is really just for the expansion. So the fence, like he's going to be operating tomorrow and then,
Yeah.
so we can't tie the fencing to operation.
I think prior to the expanded operation, would that be?
That
or
is
maybe
exactly
that's-
what the intent was when you, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Before the expansion
That's
of
how the
the
other
operation.
conditions read.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that expansion of the operation. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. You are over yet another hurdle.
Feels good.
But we have the business plan of operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is where you're going to get caught up.
All righty, we'll move on to number 10, new business. DLC 742986 W73 Wisconsin Avenue. Let's just shortcut this. Applicant is requesting approval for business plan of operation to allow modifications to the existing boat repair and sales use and expansion of the physical boundaries of the use.
Okay, so for the business plan of operation, I already read off the components other than, I think you need to just clarify the hours of operation with your motion.
Yeah, what is it, does that sound like that would work within the boundaries of what you want done? I mean, I'm just suggesting 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. to, for Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sundays and Saturdays.
That's definitely within range, for sure.
That's a great suggestion.
Yep.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the business plan of operation as presented with there contingencies from your, oh, there's nothing. The business plan of operation is presented with hours of operation amended to be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., with special events permitted based on applications.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Who had the second?
Dan. Okay. You guys are all
That's
set?
it. Thank you.
Thank
Sell
you.
some boats.
Fix some boats,
Well,
winterize some
inventory.
boats.
I don't,
That's already passed.
Got nowhere to go with
I
it,
don't
maybe.
want one. I want to use them, I don't want to.
Yeah, there you go. I agree.
Okay, 10B, DLC 0798001, 600 Milwaukee Street, owner DMK Investments LLC, Matt Krowski, applicant Jola Franzak. Applicant seeks a feedback regarding preliminary conceptual presentation of alternative designs for exterior remodeling of the building that contains Kowalski kitchen and bath. I don't see the applicant here.
Are they on? They were going to be present. I told them they were in charge of presenting the information.
On Zoom?
Dave is here. Oh, when did Dave come here?
Nobody?
I don't see anybody on there.
Okay.
Dave's here, though.
But Dave is there, so
Hi, Dave.
we haven't been having Dave as part of the votes
I don't
today.
wanna
I didn't
feel
realize he
left
was on
out.
Zoom.
Okay.
Are we allowed to add some input to recommend anything to
I
them?
mean,
while
if
they're-
you want me to share anything with them, that,
I mean, I'd just like to suggest one thing that would help. And that is it's a pretty historic building, and there's some resources locally, like Hawkson, with ancient pictures of their building through time. If they want to add elements to the building to make it consistent with some of the history, they're a good resource to check, because they're talking about it looked like they're adding a clock and some other ideas for aesthetics. Some historic elements might be
Go a long way.
well received.
Well received and help improve what I would consider to be a very, well, stylish, a modern look that I find it hard to find similar buildings anywhere in the general vicinity.
And so
If
that's
it was, I can think of many other places where that building would be
Perfect.
perfect. I just
Yeah.
have real problems with it fitting into our character in downtown historic
I
Delafield.
agree too.
But we'd definitely love to hear the background, what their intent is, and all that. And maybe it's the style of the architectural drawing. It seems a little. I shouldn't say the illustration is a little cartoonish in a way. I mean, whatever. It seems like it's more of a, I don't know, painting than a
Yeah, I
picture.
like the brown
So
color.
it's tough. But so I'd love to hear what their intent is.
It looks to
Like
me like
that.
they're knocking down all CBD district
from
and
a
planting
magazine.
mature trees.
Right, it doesn't. But yeah, so I just want to add that input that there's, but I love the fact they're keeping lines and other things of the building. They're not, but
Yeah.
anyway.
so the one thing, I mean, and I did share this with them, you have the section of the ordinance, and it came up with the Hendricks site, that any modifications, additions, or new structures shall be required to demonstrate compatibility with the surrounding architecture and exhibit traditional influence indicative of architectural styles and detailing found in Delafield at the time the city incorporated. Predominant architectural styles include colonial, neoclassical, federal, Victorian, and Greek revival. So I don't know if you remember, but with Hendricks, they just said those particular styles aren't necessarily what people are building today, and they're not always prominent, or even downtown not prominent, and I think they used the city hall as an example, and so I just didn't know like how far that particular section gets taken with them.
Although Hendricks is a new building and this is remodeling an existing building.
Yeah, and they shouldn't necessarily be penalized for that. But I mean, they're not. And to be fair, we need to have their give and take with their discussion
Absolutely.
for this preliminary conceptual discussion. So I don't want to. We should. It's almost unfair. I want to give them what input I had off the tip of my tongue. I think everyone else should as well. But they need to provide the context to which we're supposed to digest this, and we don't have it if they're not here.
Right.
The word I like to use to summarize all that is it needs to be complementary. Doesn't have to be cookie cutter, doesn't have to be exactly, but it needs to be complementary. There should be aspects that you're using in your building that you're taking from others around.
And they were very receptive when they did the addition on to the east with the extra showroom
Put that
space.
peak on.
And they just added a facade to help it blend, and so I mean they clearly are.
Yep.
Are
And they're in that
cooperative.
business.
I'm glad they're successful. We love them here. So
Yeah.
Okay, so I will let them know to come to the next meeting.
Sounds good. Okay. Number 11A, discussion of possible action to consider City of Delafield Municipal Code text amendment to sections 52-62, parentheses 5, tree preservation, including increasing the fee in lieu of tree replacement in section 52-62, 5I1, from $150 per caliper inch to $250 per caliper inch, as unanimously recommended by the tree board at their July 26, 21 meeting, and other amendments to the tree preservation section as determined by the planning commission, and schedule a public hearing for the same. This text amendment process was unanimously initiated by the Common Council on September 20th, 2021, in accordance with section 52-294B of the municipal code.
pretty much gave the summary of what's being proposed.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's something I've thought about for a long time. And do you know if other communities put a greater value on some species that are going to be removed?
Put a greater cost?
Value, yeah.
I am not aware of that. Quite frankly, you have one of the more restrictive ordinances that I'm personally aware of. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the city or village of Pewaukee has somewhat of a restrictive ordinance. When I worked at the county, they require mitigation. There's no in lieu payment process, and the requirements are different. So no, I'm not personally aware of that.
Because when I've lived here now 48 years, and when I first came here, especially up where Walmart is and Kettle Court and all that, that was a big oak savanna. And it's just about gone. And oak trees take so long to grow. And they are, if even to plant one, they're a higher value tree, that I feel that if we're going to allow people to cut down a higher value tree, perhaps we should think about putting more of a value to them money-wise.
So somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this ordinance speaks to you decide you're going to cut down certain trees, and what we're talking about here is a replacement cost.
You're right.
So I don't know if a
Yeah.
replacement cost for an oak
Right.
is much different than a replacement cost for a maple or a blue
I
spruce.
think the species itself is
Well-
probably more costly.
But this dollar value also
Yeah.
applies to the lesser value trees, so.
So you're going
And
to,
it
you say
equals
you're
out.
going
I
like
think you're
this.
looking at it and to start picking apart species, I think is
Yeah.
gonna get, well, it will get more complicated.
So what
Right.
they, the tree board, in the notes here, they talk about the cost of miscellaneous trees for the 2022 planting is between $425 and $500 each.
That's a lot
I
of
think
money.
that's what they're predicting the city's cost to be.
It's not exactly a spreadsheet to tell us how the inches turn into replacement trees. Like how does, I mean, it'd be, I don't want to get, I don't want to overcomplicate
Yeah.
it, but it is the city's discretion, Laura, what trees we plant.
Right.
I mean, and so if an oak's going to thrive, I think they pick a spot where they're going to put an oak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
and-
$250 per inch will cover that.
I know you're raising the cost is really the goal, what they recommended.
$600 some dollars for a 2.5 inch caliber tree.
If you
So
cut
that-
down a 3-foot wide oak, you're cutting a pretty big check to plant a dozen more oaks all over the city that in 30, 40, 100 years are going to be pretty big if we put them in the right spot.
Yes,
If we put them in the middle of a lot that's going to be developed, that's shame on us.
yeah. I agree. I see too many maple trees being planted, and we're not planting trees that were native to Delafield, maybe a century ago, you know.
So that is, right now, because I think one of the comments was potentially expanding the scope to allow other trees, but the ordinance right now does allow, so in replacement of the tree list, it's a list
Right.
of priority trees, conifers, ornamental trees, and shrubs over 6 feet in height do get credit for 2.5-inch caliber trees. So they
That
they
kind of goes
can
to your
use
screening comment.
shrubs and other evergreens to replace a maple or an oak right now, just
Yeah.
so that you're aware, but,
But we also have the discretion at this board to
yes.
That's right.
There's a
say
lot
we want
of,
oak to replace the oak, not shrubs.
yeah, just reading through it again today, I mean, you guys have a lot of discretion built in and throughout this section of the ordinance.
Okay.
And so does the city arborist.
And they're guided by the tree board, and they've got a 4-year plan, I think, for tree replacements.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah, 5-year
comprehensive.
plan, but
5 years.
5-year,
Yeah.
okay,
Just
yeah.
a point of interest, they just
Well,
kind
what's-
of reduced quantity of trees because their opinion, they're running out of places to put trees.
Well, I seen that
I've
they
got a few.
I seen that they did take out some of the dead trees on Genesee Street. There are a few more, and they replaced them with new trees, which I was happy to see. And we're going to be doing more of that with. I know on my lot, I've lost a lot of trees because of the ash trees, and now it's the blue spruce trees are getting attacked, and it's always
That's why you
something.
want diversity.
Right, right. And I said if I had to do it over again, it'd be nothing but white pine because they're native to Wisconsin. And then nothing bothers them. So, yeah.
So if you guys favor this recommendation from the tree board, you could potentially schedule a public hearing for October, and all I would do is change the 150 to 250 number. If you want to expand the scope, you would need to give me some direction, and then I would probably want to bring it back for discussion before scheduling a hearing.
Okay. Do you think that 250 is going to be sufficient?
Tree board did the math, they said it was.
They would, okay.
I mean, I think to Tim's point, you're taking a huge tree and you're requiring inch per inch
Right.
replacement. I mean, that's a lot of trees that are replacing the one tree.
Yeah.
And it often results in them not being able to fit on a property, and they're forced into this in lieu payment. So I think you got to be a little careful and
Yeah.
make sure you're not penalizing them too much.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to penalize, but I want to make sure that we're getting the funds that we need to replace them because of the cost of replacing them, and planting them and everything. So, because there is
You'd want
quite
to
a
vote
cost.
for the increase from 150 to 250.
Yes.
Well, and I'd say that number did come from the tree board, so I'm good with it.
I respect their work.
I'm good with it, and
Okay.
I know that in the council, briefly it came up, because it is noted here, Alderman Grimmer pointed out that the tree inventory doesn't include trees under 4 inches in diameter, and I think we'll hear about that at the public hearing, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we might be talking about, if you're on an undeveloped site, you're gonna have, 2 and 3 foot diameter trees, and that little guy isn't gonna live there anyway. I mean, it's gonna be at the it's not a tree that's gonna be established for long because it's not gonna live next to this 4-foot oak.
Well,
And so,
I mean, just from my experience too, with people, landscapers and surveyors surveying trees, there's just like a limit on how many. Usually 4 inches is a very common inch to use for actually counting them toward a survey.
but so that might be something we hear about in the public hearing,
Okay.
if that should be amended to 3 inches or something else, but I'm good with it where it is, since I think it's a pretty significant cost increase, but again, this is gonna,
It's
we'll be
expensive.
discussing this a couple times in the public forum with a public hearing, and then zoning change here, and then the council, so people have a chance to swing at this a few times.
And I've seen some of the bills, just to do the tree inventory by itself is expensive.
We don't have too much land left, though, that has a lot of trees on them.
Never know.
It's kind of like the redevelopment sites though, too. It's like the redevelopment sites. I mean, we just had Parker.
Yeah, redevelopment, but
we need a
I meant
motion
open
for that
land.
public
Yeah.
hearing?
You do.
I will motion to schedule a public hearing regarding the increase in caliber cost
Yeah,
for, what do I want to say, the fee in lieu of tree replacement
there you go.
cost to $250.
Yeah.
Basically, motion to have the public hearing.
I second.
Laura seconds. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes. Okay, we're on to 11B, discussion and potential schedule a public hearing related to text amendment to the City of Delafield zoning code specific to community-based residential facilities. Amy?
Okay, well, we keep plugging away at this one. So after our last meeting in August, we talked a little bit about how to deal with the multifamily residential lots and considering, how does it affect certain properties that would be zoned multifamily. Afterwards, Scott and I talked a little bit, and we thought you're better off being safe than sorry, and maybe what we should do is just exclude multifamily completely, and just like in a lot of cases, and actually a lot of especially institutional type uses, people come in and they always have the opportunity to propose a land use or zoning amendment to modify the zoning district from residential to institutional or business. And that gives you a lot more control in your decision-making because it's not a conditional use anymore, it would be a zoning amendment. And so you would have full discretion to decide whether or not the proposed use is or is not appropriate. So what we did differently here is, well, the leading paragraph is changed based on our conversation too. It says community and other group living arrangements, community-based residential facilities that are exempt from zoning regulations in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes shall be permitted by right. That statement was not in there previously. I didn't say 8 units or less because statutes are a little bit more than that and they do change over time. And so this is, keeps that a little more vague and forces us to go look at those statutes each time. And then all other community and other group living arrangements, including Cbrfs, that are defined in 50.01, may be permitted by a conditional use permit and then I specified the zoning districts, which is all of the business districts in the public and institutional district. It does not include the downtown business districts or the industrial districts. And then subject to the following conditions, and it's still very simple in that you have to comply with the underlying zoning standards. The city has the ability to regulate parking as deemed appropriate, and then you have to comply with all the standards specified in the CU section and all standards of the site plan and appearance requirements. I should clarify up top where it says is allowed in all the different districts by CU. I've got comma, and then I'd like to add unless otherwise permitted by right in the zoning district, and then subject to the following conditions. The reason for that is Kent reminded me this morning that just last night at the focus group meeting, we talked about adding senior living to B5 as a specific permitted use if it's associated with a medical facility. And so let's say somebody had was in a B5 district, they would need a conditional use unless there was a medical facility in the property, then it would be permitted by right as an really like an accessory use to that medical facility.
Wouldn't that be redefined though by changing the ordinance, the zoning ordinance for B5 to include that?
Yeah, but that's why, so that hasn't been done yet, but when it is done, this statement by saying unless it's otherwise permitted by right in the zoning district would then give them the right to do it without going through a CU.
No gap.
Oh, okay.
Does that make
I do get it, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we have. I mean, I can, if you need me to, if you need me to clean anything up before next month, I can. You know, we're trying to avoid unintended consequences. That's hard, that can be hard to do. At least here it's narrowing down the locations of where they can occur. And then I'll give you an example of a site where this may end up being a problem. Clearview Apartments, you guys know where that is, close to downtown. I think they want to come in. When they originally came in, they were proposing some additional buildings. They want to modify that and modify their scope. If this amendment goes through, that may end up being a problem for them, but that's also a site that may be appropriate to go into public and institutional. I mean, that's kind of where Scott and I were saying, but is it really, should it be residential, or it's clearly a facility on that property? Maybe it should be public and institutional or a business district. So that's, I guess, something to consider. Because that right now is like, I don't know, R1 or whatever. And at the very first meeting, we decided we're not going to allow them on residential lots.
I equate that to another thing in the land use thing is that the cemetery is currently, residential. It really needs converted, right?
Yeah, there's and they're permanent.
They vote all the time.
The density might be a little high.
The density is high.
Yeah.
Density, jeez.
That's too high.
So that makes sense to me. I mean, if it's not if the use has changed through conditional use, changing this underlying zoning makes sense.
I think that's an easier situation to reconcile than for them to apply for a zoning change based on their particular situation is probably more appropriate than us trying to create this huge description of how to manage more than 8 beds in residential.
I agree. I mean, they're existing already.
Yeah.
I think we can deal with it.
Geez, I think they've been
I
there
think-
about 70
yeah,
years.
I think that, they might predate the city. So I mean,
Okay.
I think it's easier for them, for a situation like that, to have cause and be, I think that'd be a easier battle to fight than, like I said, trying to describe we're trying to nail Jello to a wall when we're trying to figure out all the other circumstances where Cbrf might fit into a residential area that's over 8 beds, because we really don't have many where it works well. And that might be perfect, and they'd say, well, I think it'd be a short lift, an easier lift to just change the zoning there to meet what they want to do. And I don't think it'd be spot zoning, it'd be them establishing the zoning that they already have,
Well, and if
the use they already have.
if somebody comes in on a lot where it really does seem like it fits and it makes sense and it should be in multifamily or whatever, well, then we can come back to it.
Right.
But you're better off starting
Starting with a
little
no
bit.
and saying yes because it makes sense,
On
than
something
saying
like
yes
this.
and trying to prove it should be a no. Yeah. Did I finish your sentence? I'm sorry.
Well, no. No, I
Okay,
thought
so
this was
what
good.
action do we need on this one?
So if you're comfortable enough, you could go ahead and schedule a public hearing for this one as well, and then I'll prepare some language with Attorney Hammis's help.
Yeah, I'd like to schedule a public hearing for the amendments to the Cbrf ordinance as presented with your possible changes with Attorney Hammis's consultation or the city attorney.
Okay. I'll second.
For a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need a date
job.
specific for the scheduling of the public hearing?
Probably.
I'm good with October, end of October. Does that work for you, Amy?
Yep, October 27th.
Same with that other motion. I don't think I had a date in there. October 27th.
I don't think I've ever been putting dates in, so.
Okay.
Clerk's throwing us a
October
curveball.
27th.
Sorry.
We'll do better next time.
Okay.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, 11C, discussion regarding, or I'm sorry, 11B.
Amendment.
See.
No, I'm sorry, I'm C. Discussion regarding ordinance provision for food trucks.
Okay, so this is just a very initial discussion. So there is a section in the ordinance 52-89 that says temporary plan of operation permits may be issued at the discretion of the plan commission for temporary structures or facilities not on a permanent foundation, such as wheeled trailers, vendor carts, and season stands. It has been, I've been directed that does not include trucks or, vehicles with engines. I believe the Common Council has brought this up at your meetings and has decided that maybe food trucks should be looked at, and I don't know if, I'm assuming if so, then we would want to have code language drafted related to them. So what I did is I looked at a couple of ordinances, and we happened to find a document from the American Planners Association where it does talk about how food trucks can be a great opportunity for a community, but there are challenges associated with the competition that it causes with the restaurants that do pay taxes and then they're tax exempt. So you have those challenges, but it also provides opportunity. So what I did find is the communities that do have food truck ordinances most of them have a pretty extensive list of conditions that do have to be met. And, everything from, making sure you get your restaurant license to garbage waste being managed to submitting a site plan with any outdoor chairs or tables, or not allowing them at all, submitting a lighting plan, ensuring that parking isn't impacted on a property, that some say they can't be so close to a residence. One of the communities actually says it can't be within a certain distance of a restaurant, and they can only operate so many hours in a day. You can get permission from that restaurant. But I think also squeezing the hours in a day kind of takes away some of that competition too.
Yeah, I think so.
So long story short, the communities that do have them do have some pretty substantial conditions, and I'd be happy to be more specific or share their requirements with you. The city of Oconomowoc, if you want me to look into it, I would want to call them because they adopted an ordinance earlier this year, and they require a permit. If somebody does an event that's less than 4 days, you don't need a permit, so kind of like a special event permit. You guys have special event permits where you do allow food trucks too. But they are prohibited in sidewalks, parks, streets, publicly owned lands, unless it's part of a special event. They're not allowed on residential lots. A plan of operation is required. You have to specify days and hours on the site and when they're operating. Parking, traffic circulation, where are the outside tables, chairs, lighting, music, signage, restroom access was one, where waste containers are going, on-site storage, et cetera, are all things you have to show. They do require an annual fee, which is also something that, you could do a pilot and or annual fee to offset the tax break from these people. There were time requirements tied to that. And then they have a food court requirement. If there's 3 or more trailers, you have to get a master plan that has to get approved. But I noticed on their website, it's under amendment right now. So it was adopted earlier this year and it's already under amendment. So it would be interesting to find out what's going on there.
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
Are they permanent in one place?
It's
or are
whatever
they-
we want to, it's total open discussion for any scenario.
Oh,
Is there a specific
just-
thing causing this, or are we just trying to be
Well,
proactive
that's,
right now?
that's one
I
of
think
the
they're
points
kind
I
of
want to make.
trendy.
So number one is I don't want to do anything that jeopardizes or hinders our current existing tax-paying businesses and taking away any of their customers.
yeah.
If there's some way to ferret something out for food trucks that we assure that type of thing isn't going to happen, I'd be willing to listen and help make that happen. But I don't know where the outcry is of people in the city of Delafield either that are saying, we got 4 people in here saying, why aren't we having food trucks, right? I know of one incident with one food truck, one owner, and
It was resolved.
it was resolved, and so.
Well,
Do
to
we need to
clarify, it was resolved by
clarify?
not allowing them to operate. I
Right.
think some people,
If we need to clarify this wording, that, there was some question as to the definition of a food truck.
Today, if a company like Modern Hire wanted to bring in a food truck, what would they have to do
For one day,
for one day,
they
just for a
just
couple?
fill out a special event
employees?
permit,
Okay,
they could get it
so-
for the one day.
Yeah, Didn't it sounded like with an engine, it wouldn't
But
be allowed?
that's what it's for, one day. It's not for multiple days.
Special
It's
event.
not for,
So a special event, does it allow something with an engine in it?
special event allows anything, for the most part, with regard to food trucks.
So where was the engine, with or without an engine in play?
Yeah, so that is in the wording here. So think of this in context, right, the way these words are written here. Temporary plan of operation permits may be issued at the direction of the planning commission, which the applicant in the question at hand could have made an application to the planning commission, and then we all would have had the opportunity to decide that. For a temporary structure or facility, not on a permanent foundation, and this is what you'd have to interpret, such as a wheeled trailer, vendor cart, and seasoned stands. So when you hear those 3 words,
Yeah,
what
it's
do
not
you
a truck.
think of?
Yeah.
What comes to your mind as to the intention of the writing of these
not a-
words in
not
this
a-
context?
Not someone who's just trying to cherry pick the prime hours of operation to kill lunch hour business for some other existing restaurant.
Yeah.
So I think you have a big problem with this, brick and mortar places where someone's selling take and bake pizzas or baked pizzas, and a pizza Pizza by the Slice truck pulls up in front of them, their business, and their customers are parking in front of the other pizza place and then using their bathrooms. It would not,
Go over
it's
well.
not really
Yeah.
just saying, hey, we love everybody. It's saying we're making things easier for one person than the other. So I think the temporary business, the special event permit suffices for now. I don't see why we'd do anything different personally, but I understand the one situation when that was someone trying to make hay in a particular situation, and more power to them, but it didn't fit with our ordinance, and I don't see why we should change it. I mean,
And it was last minute, and, they could have gone through this process, but
so
whatever the reasons were.
I'd like to hear the business community come out and the citizens come out and petition us to change it as opposed to us trying to correct a situation that doesn't really, that made the paper once.
Yeah. I mean, I have creative ideas. I could imagine, like, the municipal parking lot having some event on a particular day
Yeah.
where we invite multiple food trucks, right? I could see that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a special
Right?
event? That'd
Yeah, it
the
would be a
event.
special event.
Right, that would be it.
So we already can do that.
And to do what Oconomowoc has
Right.
done, they basically have designated off a particular area. It's only for parking.
Yeah.
Can we
Food
do
truck?
a special event with a food truck right now?
Yes. We've done it.
So the fish hatchery has a certain allowance for food trucks for weddings. I believe that for some
Great spot.
events, maybe the chamber has recently started to have like a beer truck,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
They have Kona trucks, they have,
Well, the Kona truck
Beer
has
trucks.
a temporary business plan of well, it used to. The Kona, is my understanding, is there was some sort of business that would come around in the summer and had a temporary.
I want to know what that was, because we approved the Kona icy drink food truck
Yeah,
a couple years in a row. How did we do that? I would like to know. I would like some.
I think it was the cart.
It was a truck. No,
It was a
drove
truck.
around. It drove around.
Okay.
Is that legal? Is an ice cream truck legal? Is the Schwann's guy legal?
I'm trying to remember what the.
I'm just wondering. The guy who says, "Hey, I overbought meat. I'm delivering across the street." I mean, I know what that's all about, but
I'm trying to remember what the context of that was.
I want
but
the
we've
old guy
got
with
we've got the
ice
Kona.
cream.
I know we approved the Kona ice somehow a temporary,
the
but maybe
bicycle.
that was against our ordinance. But we
Yeah,
did that a
I-
couple years in a row.
I
a
vaguely
few
remember
years
it, but I
back.
don't remember the
Missed it.
context. You remember the context, Dan?
No, I don't. I cannot remember.
It's an ugly truck. Can't miss it. I mean, or it's beautiful, depending on.
I've
So-
been to some, private events too. I won't say where, but
Absolutely, and
graduation
that's the
parties where
other
a food
thing.
truck
I mean,
came.
it says no I'm not an expert in the language, but it
Yeah.
says something
So
about
would
residential
exclude-
lots. But doggone well, people have graduation parties,
I've
and it was even expanded during COVID, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I've had it myself, food trucks in my yard. Again, for one day, one event, and never back until
Yeah.
another
And I don't
special
have an issue
event.
with that, right?
Yeah.
So what about beer trucks?
No, now we get it.
I think that's the same, I mean, I think it's the same thing.
Those are usually trailers, though, right?
The residential thing.
They
was
usually
nice.
are.
Well, this
Yeah,
is
with
where
the
the
signs on the side.
little thing got, if you trailered in, a food preparation operation, is that different than one that's a truck with an engine? And
Yeah.
reading the ordinance, the spirit of that ordinance, it didn't imply to me that was, on-site food preparation.
Sort of like we're looking at the Cbrf ordinance at the possible risk of excluding Clearview and having them petition for something that they want to do.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with leaving it the way it is and having someone with a good proposal petitioning us to change something that we can put our arms around and say, this makes a ton of sense.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Fine with that too.
I mean, it might, maybe with the one situation this past summer, that would have been a catalyst to make a change that would have made that all happen, but it didn't. It was handled like an ask forgiveness later as opposed to asking permission, and that caused a problem. Because otherwise we're solving a problem for somebody, or creating a solution that we don't know someone needs.
So to help give staff direction, and just correct me if the consensus I'm getting is wrong, is that we allowed food trucks with a a special event permit. Or if you want to go through the process to implement this.
So my understanding is, so I get the special event permit. My understanding is that a food truck doesn't fit in this. Do you want me to tell people they can try to come in for a plan of operation based on this language? Because it says not on a permanent foundation such as wheeled trailers, vendor carts, and season stands. It says such as, so it could be expanded, but,
Then we'd have to interpret it.
so I think,
So the next time somebody comes with a food truck, what is staff supposed
I mean,
to
should I tell them to come here under that provision? Just tell them to come in?
Specifying food versus drink?
No, it doesn't, and we keep seeing
Because
food
I
trucks.
keep thinking about the horse trailer. Is that just an appendage to that business?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that,
so we let
I
her
think
do
that
it.
totally fits into that, right? They don't make anything in there. That's more of a decorative item.
She came
An
in for
expansion of
approval.
an existing business. I mean, it's like the popcorn stand that used to park in front of the gas station years ago,
Forgot about that one. Yeah.
right? I mean, a
Similar.
perfect application for this, right?
So we did tell, Amy at Belfry, she came in under this section as a wheeled trailer.
Okay.
Which it is.
Yes.
So yeah, that's fine. I can just tell people to apply for this
So,
section under this.
so if somebody wants to do a food truck one time, one day in June, does the staff have the ability to just approve that as a
So it's my
special?
understanding that's a special event, but that's 60 days, they have to submit 60 days notice. That's the hard part, is knowing
Okay.
that.
So
We can cut that
It doesn't say if
30.
it's a day or for all summer.
And Molly's giving,
Our
That's
clerk
what-
probably
that's what
wants
they
to
keep-
look into this a little bit further, but I mean, I can just tell you from practicality, that's what's been done. So the clerk can tell us what.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want, if somebody's doing a one-time event, one day in the summer, you don't want to have it come to the commission for that. You want to empower the staff. It's that person said, I'm going to do it every Friday over the summer, right? That's when you want to get, I would think, in.
Yeah, so it's just a process, we go through this basically one-day event package.
Yeah.
And so whether you're having the Delafield Lions Car Show downtown, we have to,
Yeah.
that organization has to fill that out. The American Legion has to fill that out when they do the 4th of July parade. The Chamber, when they have the block party, they have to fill out application out when they want to have the fall walk or the October fest that's coming up. They have to fill out that one-day permit, right?
Yeah.
And the inclusion of vehicles and food trucks and beer trucks have been done over my recollection through this permit. Now, does the
Is it
language
60
actually
days?
say that? I don't know.
That just sounds long to me.
I'm
You have to
not,
think 2 months ahead of time that you're gonna.
Yeah.
we
Well,
have a,
most people do, but on occasion, they get done in shorter periods of time.
Okay.
I would say for my experience here is if we knew there was going to be a food truck, we would probably tell them no at this point, because our understanding is that you're not supposed to have food trucks. They're approved only on the fish hatchery. So if the food trucks were coming through and it was a frequent thing, there's a checkbox on the event permit that says food sales, and then to contact the Waukesha County Health Department. But I am not familiar with the food trucks being something that we have frequently allowed as part of an event
What's
permit.
the parameter for an event? How long can an event be? Can an event be 100 days?
One day.
No, the Delafield block party is what, 3 days?
So is there a maximum number of days? So I can say, I've got a special event. I'm going to have my food truck on this corner for the
Summer.
festival of summer. Right? I mean, I want staff to not be in a pickle where
Yeah.
they get.
Well, and I think that's kind of where we're stuck right now.
There is no ordinance for the special events.
So we need to
So let
define
me
a
say
special
this.
event for
Yeah, I
where a
think
food
we
truck
need
can,
to work
I think
on
we
that.
need to have something that defines a special
Is the
event.
planning commission comfortable with the special event permit allowing food trucks during their time of use, of approval?
I would say yes.
Yeah, what's our longest event?
The block
3
part?
days?
I don't know, you tell me. I mean, I don't see them all. I mean,
Probably a block party.
I think the block party.
Yeah.
we approved the, well, I don't think it's, I'm not sure if it's happening anymore, the Negawaki
The art show?
Art
Yeah,
Festival.
and they
There's a
have food
blues
trucks. It's a weekend.
festival.
They
like
have
a
food
weekend.
trucks for sure. I ate in them this
Like
year.
3 days.
What's the farmer's
It's
market?
3 days, but that Friday, Saturday.
The farmer's market has a business plan of
Oh, they
operation.
do, all right.
Yep.
So why don't you, it may not even be a plan, well, maybe it is plan commission, it's going to be both, right? Maybe we need a time limit on what defines a special event. Maybe we need to look at a special
we
event,
have
and then I
one?
think we're covered for the food
I
truck
think
thing.
we need to do that too.
We could do 3 days not to exceed 2 times a year.
Something
Yeah.
like
And
that.
remember, the special event permit goes through all the
And then it
departments,
has to come to
Public
us,
Works,
right.
Police, Fire. Everybody has to review it to make sure that they're comfortable with what you're asking for.
Who's going to make the call on whether or not they can have a 10-day event
Well,
with
I think if we
food
could-
trucks every day out, you know,
But I
like,
think we should define the
Right.
special event as a specific time max, like
I like the
72
suggestion.
hours. And if they want 5 of them, they have to fill out 5 special event permit applications.
You pay the fee.
Well, the fee ain't much.
But you can't, I mean, if you're going to string them along, you can say, listen, this is not in the spirit of,
Yeah.
we need to.
I don't think the
cover
city administrator would have any problem with that.
some- no.
I know overall I've been kind of quietly, slowly working on addressing the kind of gaps in the special event permit so I can add this to the list and try to get something here sooner rather than later.
Your suggestion, did they maybe repeat it?
I mean, we want the food trucks to, we want the successful businesses to come here, but we also want them to fill in our vacant retail spaces and become part of the community. We want them to-
Yeah. And if they want to
want 'em
come
to
in
be here
for
at
a
the-
day or two for a special event,
Yeah,
that's great.
And we don't want them to be here at the demise of the existing businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should write something around making sure that we do bracket these special events, that you can't have the same event more than a
Again,
handful of
it's something
times.
that we've never really had a problem with.
Yeah, but you never know, that
Now
someone will
we're
do 10 or
rethinking,
the
you
summer
know,
long
multiple things, right? I mean,
continuous. Yeah.
Well, I think you're trying to not leave things real open-ended, you know, trying to bring some conformity to it.
So what can we, so are you suggesting that you would bring back, you'd suggest something to come back to the planning commission as far as special events? Does planning commission even own special events process? I don't know.
They've never come here before. Does it go straight to common council? Does it go to a committee at all?
So the special events is pretty much an internal department head, staff kind of reviewed and approved item. Alcohol permits used to come here, but those are not required to come here anymore. I'm sorry, used to come to common council. So no, I mean, it's pretty much just internal, but I would be fully supportive of somebody wanting to.
Well, adopting the
What if we,
ordinance.
just to play off what you were saying, what if we just simply say, give guidance to the staff, if it's more than 3 days, if it's a special event, more than 3 days, and a request for more than twice a year, that needs to come to the planning commission or whatever process and let the staff, if it's inside 3 days and only 2 times or less a year, let the staff make that decision, food trucks or not food trucks, or whatever the criteria is. That's pretty open, but yet it's bounded, like you couldn't abuse that, right? Somebody couldn't have a food truck come every Friday for the summer,
Yeah.
right? That wouldn't fall within that, it's more than twice.
Yeah, and make it whatever our longest one is, 3 days, 5 days, whatever.
So does
the
that
first
need
one,
to
yeah.
go through like some kind of an ordinance or resolution to common council, or does Molly just stick it on the application? I mean, it kind of seems like it needs to.
That sounds easy.
It's called the fine print.
Yeah, right.
It's on you.
Since it's not defined now, she could just put it on and none of us will know.
I can ask Tom
Yeah, ask our city administrator.
to determine, and as far as whether or not that'd be something that would have to be just added to the current policy, or
Yeah.
if we need to officially.
Because we want to be friendly to
Visualize it.
both, our businesses and to people that want to have events, so.
Okay, anybody want to kick this in one more time?
No,
No?
I think,
Okay.
I think we beat it
That's
enough.
good.
Okay, we're gonna go to 12, report of city officials, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. Regular meeting, October 27th, 2021. Regular meeting submittal, deadline, October 12th, 2021.
Here, can I talk about?
Is this where we want to talk about November?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the holidays are coming up, and Tom asked that I bring up November and December meeting dates. So the normally scheduled November date is November 24th, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
No, thank you.
No.
No, thank you.
But usually we either move it up a week or we move it back a week, one or the other.
Well, I'd suggest moving it up a week, but, or
Moving it-
actually, if we move it to December, we might be able to skip December's meeting because it's usually light at the end of December anyway.
Well, let me forewarn you, we're gonna have a busy
Move it up
November,
then.
December, January, and February.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Well, just with the focus group recommendations.
Well, and other things.
Oh yeah, there are gonna be some other items too.
Is November busy?
I don't think we're gonna be
Skip that one.
skipping any meetings, we're gonna need the meetings that we have,
Yeah.
so.
But I do, if,
The one in November, I think that we should, I'm for going a week before.
the 17th,
the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Let me just confirm availability.
While we're talking about that, I just looked and I know I am traveling that last week of October, so I will be absent for next.
In October?
In
We're
October.
talking about November.
But
November 17th.
but November 17th, I can be here.
Okay.
Not that that matters that much.
It matters, yeah.
So then the deadline for that would be November 2nd.
Can we hear Dave talk and see if he,
I think he fell asleep.
no, he's
Is
there.
there-
Oh, Dave.
Can you unmute, Dave? Can I?
Just thumbs up or thumbs down if December.
All right,
November.
I
he's
think I
there.
see his lips moving.
Dan,
Hi there.
we can't hear him.
Can't hear him.
Can we hear Dave? Dave, can you speak?
December, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
Did he say he was okay November 17th?
It could be.
What is the December date? Do we know?
So would you have a preference
December would be
between
the
November
first.
17th and December 1st, is it?
That's Public Works.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
December
That's
1st.
why I think we usually move it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is availability to move
Right,
it up.
you're right. You
Follow
should move it up.
Public Works.
well, Dave would be the only one not available.
On the
Okay.
17th, I might not be available either.
Oh.
I'm taking some courses after hours, and that may be the last day.
17th of November? Okay.
Do you guys want to think through that for the October meeting? We'll have to make sure we have a quorum.
Well, I don't
then.
think people, I'm just, not to interrupt, I don't think people's schedules are gonna change. I mean, as long as we have a quorum, we can proceed.
Well, I don't know if we will though, right now. Dave said he didn't know, right?
I'm only October, although are we going to continue the Zoom process through the end of the year or no?
That's to be determined on October 4th.
Okay, because I'll be in a hotel room on the 27th of October, so I can still participate if it's Zoom. If we are,
That's the October meeting.
yeah, if we're short numbers on October.
And you're good for November 17th?
Good for November.
That's the one.
Bob is not, and Dave is unsure.
So we'd have four.
3 for sure, or,
And Ed'll be here.
oh,
Be
4.
four.
Okay,
So we have a quorum for the 17th.
okay.
Yeah,
17th.
yeah.
December, the regularly scheduled meeting would be December 29th. Does anyone have an issue with December 29th?
It's as bad as any, so fine with me.
It's after
Works
Christmas
for me.
though.
Okay, you want to
Is
leave
it gonna
it?
snow?
It's gonna snow.
I'm sorry.
Wise guy.
If
It
it
is-
does,
I'd leave
if
it, I'd leave
it
it.
does, I'll
Leave
have
it.
my husband come with the Jeep with the plow to get you out and bring you.
Well, it's just between Christmas and New Year's, so
Yeah.
some people go on vacation.
Yeah,
So what's the other alternative? Early in December?
I would say probably the 22nd or,
ooh, that's
Yeah, I'd
bad.
have to go
I
to
mean,
the
the
15th.
15th, you're starting to, now you're getting close to the November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We've had them in the last week.
if we're gonna move November to the 17th.
I think last week you,
December 15th would be about a month later.
It doesn't matter to me.
it's true.
Either one's fine with me, I don't care.
Yeah, either one works.
I would just thinking out loud, I would think maybe the 15th, because how do you not know somebody's going to have a trip in between or visiting family for the holidays?
Yeah, it can be a gap for people that they like to travel to see family.
I kind of like the 15th.
Me too.
Because November is bumped up anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it works for me. It's my daughter's birthday on the 29th.
December 15th?
Well, if you decide now, it's fair notice
Okay.
too. It's not like we're changing it.
So December 15th for the December meeting, everybody thinks that's a better choice?
Sure.
Let me
For
just
me,
check availability.
Fine.
Okay, clerk's checking availability.
November 30th would be the deadline.
Let me see.
The schedules are usually pretty light in December, January. I mean, there's an item or two, but
know.
that's,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Let's go. Well,
Well,
we'll see.
December 15th is on a Thursday.
no,
No.
it's a
Isn't it?
Wednesday, the 15th of December.
It's a Wednesday.
Oh, the 15th of December. I'm sorry. I was thinking the 16th. All right. No, that's good.
Molly?
I think we're good.
And what about Mike back there?
He's probably saying we're on our own.
Did you say that?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to amend those dates?
We don't usually.
I don't,
Well, you
No.
tell us.
No.
I don't think we made a formal motion to create them in the first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Make sure it gets
so we'll
my
move on
calendar.
to correspondence. Not aware of any. C planner.
So the only thing I have, Tom asked me to add, noted that there is,
See, it's not as easy
there
as
is
you thought.
there is a public informational meeting regarding the bicycle and pedestrian facilities implementation plan that will take place on Wednesday, October 6, 2021 at 6:30 PM at the council chambers. So just so
Okay.
you know, and you can share that with others.
Yeah.
And the information is available on the city's website, right?
Yes.
And if you do notify me, you probably know already.
And you probably already know, or if you go to the website, it
Yes.
pops up.
If you visited the website,
So there's a tripod in front of the library, and we're communicating it well.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
you all know we had our focus group meeting last night.
Yep.
Where the information is presented, it is on the website, or project site.
Good.
Alrighty, building inspector, not here tonight, so no report. Seeing no further business, we are now adjourned. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Did mention he was gonna come via Zoom. I wanted to come via Zoom, and I told him to check with you, because